Hi everybody. Occasionally when you're working with data, you may want to calculate the average value of some variable. But instead of looking for the overall value of the average for all values in the data set, you may only want to calculate the average within particular groupings in the data set. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a simple way to calculate the means for a variable based on groups, and then those groups are going to be defined by another variable in the data set. We're going to look back at jewelry sales. Here, jewelry sales, we've got three variables in the data set. We've got date, we've got sales, and we've got disposable personal income. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate the average, and then I'm going to turn around and calculate the average based on the year the sales were made. And so for 1993, we're going to calculate the average sales for each month in 1993. Okay, and that's going to be different than the average for the sales over all dates in the data set. And so the first thing that we need to do is that we need to create the year variable. And we're going to use the calculations that SAS has available to it. There's some functions that let you create a date, create the year, the month, and the day from a variable that has the date in it. And we've already got the date in the data set, so all we need to do is create a year. And so we're going to call our variable year, and it's going to be equal to the year that we find in the date variable. Okay. We're going to run that, make sure that it worked okay, and it did. So each one of these observations that we see in the data set, when we see the year 1993, we look over here, and the year that's calculated from that, that's extracted from that date, is in fact 1993. And the same is true for 94. And the further down the data set, we can confirm that each one of these extracted the right date out of right year out of the date. Okay, once we have the date variable or the year variable, what we can do is calculate the means, Proc means. And if we start off just calculating the means, it's going to give us only one set of means here. And so this is the means. It's got the mean year, the mean DPI, the mean sales, and the mean date for all observations. And so they're not broken up by different years from the data set. If we want to calculate the means based on the date or based on the year, what we're going to have to do is put in a by statement. And so proc means is going to be followed by the year. And so now when we rerun this, we're calculating the means not just across all dates, but within each year in the data set. And you can see that 1993 is the earliest year in the data set. It calculates the mean over 12 observations. Each of those are months, and it gives us the mean, the standard deviation, the minimum, and the maximum, all the way down to 2005. And in 2005, there's only one observation for 2005, so we don't have a standard deviation for that. It doesn't move around any. Okay, so that's how you calculate the means by a particular variable. Sometimes you may want to output this to a different data set. And if you want to output it to a different data set, one of the things that you can do is create a new data set. First, we have to tell it what variable that we're going to calculate the means for, that we're going to create the data set from. The var that we're going to use, the variable, is sales. Okay, and so we're doing a proc means by year, and the variable that we're going to be taking the means over and creating a new data set from is sales. And then we're going to output that data set, output out equals, and we're just going to call the new data set JS mean by year, or JS means year. And the statistic that we're outputting is the mean. And we're going to call that mean AVE sales, so average sales. And if we run this, it's going to print all this stuff to screen again, but we're going to get this brand new data set that has the average sales for each of the year. Now it says above the column it has a label of sales, but if you look at the column attributes, you can see that the actual name for the data is average sales, or ABE sales. Okay, so if we wanted the label to be average sales as well, we're going to have to change the label using a label statement, and we'll cover that in another video. Okay, so if we go back to our program, we can see that we've output a data set. We may not want to print things to screen. We may not want to print all this stuff to screen every time we run the program, so what we can do also is put in a no print statement. We can say proc means, and instead of just leaving it that, we can just put in no print. And so the next time we run it, it doesn't print the new means to screen. And so it leaves that step out. Okay, so we've created a brand new data set that has the averages for each one of the years in that data set. One thing we may want to do is take those averages and merge them back into the original data set. Oftentimes we're in a situation where we're trying to create a brand new data set or merge two data sets, and they're of different periods. One may be monthly and the other may be annual, and so oftentimes we are faced with the prospect of taking the average of all the months, or maybe even the sum of all the months, and merging it into the year. For example, if we're trying to merge in, say, the average sales for average jewelry sales for the year, and merge it into the population for the year. The census doesn't collect population on a monthly basis. It doesn't even estimate it for a monthly basis, but it does estimate population for a lot of different regions, including the entire U.S. for the year. And so we could take those mean jewelry sales and connect those up with the annual population estimates and figure out whether or not population is driving jewelry sales, whether higher populations result in higher jewelry sales. Okay, so what we're going to do here is not quite that complicated. We're just going to simply merge the new jewelry sales averages back into the original jewelry sales data. And so the first thing we need to do is make sure that the data is properly sorted. So we say proc sort data equal JSMEAN YR. So we're sorting the jewelry sales means by year. I'm sorry, that's YR. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other data set, which is data 01. So we're just going to copy this and proc sort data 01. So we're sorting both of them by year, and then we're going to create a third new data set called data 2 or data 02. Data 02. And in data 02, we're going to merge the means to the original data set, and we're going to do that by year. Okay, and so when we run this, we're going to get a brand new data set. The new data set is data 02, and data 02 is going to have the average sales for each of the years, the individual sales for each of the months within each of the years, and now we can calculate maybe the difference between the average sale month, or the average sales for the year and the sale for the month, and find out whether each month is above or below the average for the year. And so we can do that by resetting the data. So data 02, data 02, set data 02, and then just calculate the difference, difference, equals, and in this case remember that the name of the data that we're trying to calculate the difference between is the average sales. So I just copied that, Control C, average sales minus sales. And so if this is a positive number, it means that average sales is above sales. It means that sales is in that particular month is lower than the average. If it's a negative, it means sales in that particular month is above the average. And so if we rerun this, we're going to get data 2, and now we have that difference. If sales, the average sales, is above the actual sales, we get a positive difference. If the average sales is below the actual sales, we get a negative. And we can change that around if we like. We could also put it in as where it would be a positive if it's above and a negative if it's below. But in any case, just to recap, what we did was we showed you how to create the means by a particular variable, so that you're not just calculating means for the entire group, you're calculating the means by, in this case, by the year. We used the year variable. We created a year variable by using some of the date functions that are available in SAS, specifically year. And we also used a merge statement that merged two data sets together by a key variable, which is the year in this case. Thanks for listening.